We're good to go? Great. Okay. So good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Giant, both of our live audience here and the virtual audience. Actually, this is a hybrid event. Yes, it was great. We had an amazing day yesterday with over 1,500 people coming through our doors in the middle of a pandemic to try to create community. So we're really grateful for those of you that turned up yesterday to speak, to interact, and also to see our great entrepreneurs downstairs and see the showcase of innovation across healthcare. We had people come from the US, Germany, Spain, Italy, and also Brazil. And that surprised us an awful lot during the pandemic. So we're grateful for all that came along. I'm Professor Shafi Ahmed. I'm a consultant in the Royal London, but also co-founder chair of the Giant event. This is our 6th year, and we've come from humble beginnings 6 years ago. And our template really was initially, how do we create a community of innovators and entrepreneurs in healthcare across all sectors, involving everybody, from students to CEOs, to bring them together, to have those conversations where we, innovate together to reimagine, reinvent healthcare for the future. That's been our desire, and hopefully we've managed to be successful in many years trying to create that community. We now have 300,000 people in that community who interact with newsletters, with Giant TV Live, which we do on a regular basis, and our conferences here in the end of the year, which is like a face-to-face usually. But also earlier this year in April, we had a European health tech event, 5 conferences in 5 cities virtually. It was Barcelona, it was Stockholm, Berlin, Paris, Liverpool. So we managed to get a European community together, again, to talk about the innovation in healthcare as a whole. So that's the background of Giant. Today, we're lucky to be at the Business Design Centre, supported very ably by Ellen and her team. A couple of points to make today before we go on. First of all, outside, you'll notice lots of queues, only because are now looking at vaccine passports this morning, which they didn't do yesterday, so the queues will be longer, it'll take longer to get through. But we've got a huge amount of people waiting to come through those doors. One point about toilets. We have toilets on either side downstairs. This side here, unfortunately, was leaking last night. They're fixing it as we speak with maintenance. So if you do need to go and visit the bathroom, it's actually on the other side of the building. There are 4 stages, all doing different things. And today's stage really is all about 5G in healthcare, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I think it's just time to get the show on the road and to present our first speaker. And it's Daryl Woodhouse. Daryl is, kind of a keynote speaker. And I think his passion is really about well-being and trying to think about how we prevent burnout. There's a lot of stuff over the last year or so, or 18 months during the pandemic, about burnout, about stress for healthcare workers during the pandemic, with enormous amount of pressure, of course, on the system. So managing well-being and healthcare, I think, is absolutely vital. Daryl also has a startup downstairs, so please go and visit him and get his views and his team's views on how we manage well-being going forward. Daryl.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome. I really appreciate it. Good morning, I'm Daryl Woodhouse. Really pleased to be here today and hopefully going to give you some great insights and some inspiration and some know-how on burnout prevention, especially around overworking, working too many hours for too many days a week for too many years. There's a story I'm going to tell you about that in a moment as well, with some insights and some practical techniques, and I'll tell you a bit more about what our company does as well to help prevent burnout, but whilst helping companies, teams and individuals to optimize their performance at work whilst enjoying a healthier, happier life-work balance. If it sounds great, stay put. We've got about half an hour, a bit of a talk, and then we're going to do some open questions. A lot of my work is around this vision of the smarter future of work and life. And let's go into that a little bit more. I want to start to illustrate my points today by talking about achievement. I've got some achievements in my career, in my business that I'm really proud of. I was the fastest on record for a large global corporate to graduate through their executive trainee program. At age 26, I was head of performance for a national division in a FTSE 100 company. I published my first book before I was 30. I've had quite a few awards for the company I started in 2012. Awards for creating fantastic case studies and results and successes for companies from small ones through to large global organizations. It's been fun. It's also been quite hard work. Now, a lot of people look at just some of those achievements and others that I'm one of the youngest executive business school lecturers in the world, which I've been doing for a couple of years now as well. People say, how have you achieved all these things? What's your secret? I have two. The first one is that I've always been good at productivity, getting a lot done in a short space of time. It's something that's come naturally to me, and I've studied the topic further and learned from others and combined that with my natural skill set. So that is absolutely one of the really key things to how I have had some great achievements at work that I'm proud of in the earlier corporate career and since as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. The second ingredient, surprise, surprise, was working too hard for too many hours, long days, too many days a week for too many years. I followed this corporate culture that I was conditioned in my earlier career, that if you want to provide for your family, if you want to get ahead, if you want to move up the career ladder, you've got to suck up the stress, you've got to put the hours in. And if that means you're going to be tired and it's going to be tough, just suck it up. That's exactly what one of my previous corporate bosses said. If he's listening, you'll know who you are. And I was kind of okay with that for many years. My body wasn't. My body had been warning me, giving me several signs, several health issues, saying that I'm doing too much. It didn't like it. Our bodies are so clever. They are amazing if we listen to them. So what was happening through all of those career and business successes, I was burning out. And that was my body was showing me in lots of different ways. If you'd like to know more of some of these examples, you can ask me those in Q&A, but it's not for everyone. Some people don't want to hear some of the nasty stuff that comes with it. Feeling quite young and fit and energetic and being fairly health conscious anyway, I would just keep making sure I do some exercise and eating healthily, and I'll be fine. The burning out won't get any worse. And this was going on for years. And in 2016, something happened in my private life, a tragedy, which led to several other events and traumas. That when I was so anxious, fatigued, struggling with sleep, and other issues from burning out, made everything too much, and I fell over the cliff into an abyss of major burnout, and it got really bad for me. It was actually very dark and lonely initially, being burnt out. Initially, I felt embarrassed. I felt it was a failure. How can this successful business advisor, leadership trainer, former corporate leader, family man, how could this person be struggling to get out of bed in the mornings, struggling with stomach problems, being exhausted, struggling to sleep, trying to get to sleep. When I did fall asleep, waking up regularly, waking up way too early. It made everything really tough. And it turned my life upside down. And it took me a while to get out of that. But the good news is that I did come back from it, and I'm here today. I live to tell the tale. If you want to know a bit more about how bad it got, so you can spot the symptoms in others. we can go into that a bit later in the questions. But the really good thing from the experiences that I went through is that I did come back and I learned to love what I'd been through, and I'd learned to channel that as positivity and motivation to not let it happen again, to find a better way. And when I did find a better way, which involved me working 4 days a week, more than half as much as I had been for many years, being happier, healthier than ever, whilst witnessing that my career and my business successes were reaching new heights. I was like, wow, how is this possible? And when I started researching overworking, job burnout, mental health, I became a little bit, let's say, nerdy about my statistics and my numbers and understanding the causes. And I learned that it wasn't just me that had been through this. It's actually amazingly common of how many people burn out. And I learned other stories, horror stories of how badly it affected people. I learned about suicide. One of the worst reactions I had to my burnout was suicidal thoughts, which I still feel annoyed at myself today because I'm a dad. I've got 4 children. They're my world. And how could, when I've got these children to look after and care for, how could I consider something like that? How could I consider ending my life? And I learned to understand the reasons why and understanding about the chemicals in the brain when I started getting therapy, when I opened up, when I got help. There's lots of studies now that are raising awareness of how common overworking and job burnout is. 12 million UK workers, with a large number of those in healthcare, have had job burnout. There's different levels of burnout. There's some minor examples and there's some more serious ones. More recent studies, some of which are my own, because I've been doing my own research studies to complement stuff that's already out there. I've been finding that 90% of full-time workers today have a medium to high burnout concern, not just for themselves, but for their teams, for their colleagues, for their organizations. 39% of people that I've researched have confessed to overworking big time, significantly longer hours than you are contracted or paid to do. 44% overwork sometimes. So this is a real issue that I'm here to raise awareness of and help fix. Then we've got other amazing studies which are now starting to see the longer term health impact of overworking, working 50 hours plus per week, for example. And I don't need to read those out to you. The increased risk of a stroke, depression, anxiety. Those last 2, I have to now personally manage daily for the rest of my life. 2 of the reminders I have to not let it happen again. As motivation to channel being a professional speaker, to raise awareness, to help others with this stuff. And if you haven't got the point yet, worst case scenario, burnout and overworking can break families. It can cause divorce, suicide, misery. That dark screen we had earlier, you can imagine if you haven't been there before. And probably one of the biggest travesties of overworking, even if you don't ever burn out, is the opportunities we're missing out on. And as I've learned, when we have more of a life-work balance, but we focus on productivity skills and get the right strategy and the right goals, we can achieve a lot more. And there's lots of studies and research now that support. It's not just me saying this. It's a no-brainer to have a better life-work balance and to work on optimizing performance in your career, in your business, through productivity skills, through teamwork, through efficiencies, process. The answers are out there, but looking at those stats, it's amazing how many people aren't using these yet. But we have time to change that from today. I started to touch on earlier that after several months of being in that really dark place and being embarrassed and not talking to anyone, once I finally did open up, I was overwhelmed with the amount of love, support, and understanding within my own family and my close friends. Professional help was the next big step, going to the local doctor, I'm very grateful to, then getting professional therapy to help understand and go to the source. Some of the sources and the causes of why my burnout got so bad for me actually went back to childhood traumas as well. So then we were juggling, dealing with the past that had never been dealt with before, and how that had contributed to my determination to be successful at work, to prove to the bullies that harassed me from the age of 6 to 18 through my whole school life. I was determined to prove that I was worth something, that I wasn't a loser. I took that out of school, I took it into my career, and that's where a lot of the overworking and the ambition came from. That's where it started. Then when you throw in several traumas in 2016 as an adult, stuff that can happen to any one of us at any time, you start to get a bit of a picture. But as I say, on the positive side, I did come back, and unfortunately, whilst I learned the hard way, at least I learned that less is more and quality over quantity. And I learned this better way, which involved for me the 4-day week. Now, the 4-day week is a bit scary to some people because it's like, well, first of all, I need to work a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. That would be nice. I like to not have to work in the evenings or worry about work in the evenings or my weekends. So I'm not talking about any radical jump. Let's all jump straight into the 4-day working week, but let's do it in baby steps. Let's get some benefit from a 3-hour-a-week reduction. See that it works, see that I'm right, and then let's do another 3 hours, and then let's do it gradually. When I came back and discovered this better, happier, newer way of enjoying life and enjoying my work again and having a great life balance for all of that, I felt that I had to adapt what I did in my business as a previously focusing on advising companies with business strategy, leadership development, talent mapping. This is the kind of the work I've been doing for the last 10 years. And I felt that I needed to, as a duty, take that experience that I'd been through and take it to the stage. So I started doing more professional speaking to raise awareness. But behind the scenes, as an entrepreneur, I've been developing different new scalable tools to get the solution to more people. And COVID, as it has been a challenge for many businesses around the world, our business was hit very, very hard in terms of significant revenue drop within about 36 hours of the first UK lockdown. And that was hard, but once I found the positive, it gave us time to innovate, to future-proof our business from further pandemics, and to leverage digital and innovation more. And that's where we've recently launched a first-of-its-kind mobile app, which shows individuals, leaders, hardworking, overworking teams exactly how effectively they are using their time at work. And then through some clever gamification, the amazing things we can do with technology and apps these days, all in our pockets on a device. Then once you know how effective you're using your time and the app's helping you to visually identify things that you can change, there's some in-app coaching to then help you to take that information and improve that life-work balance, improve your productivity and performance at work at the same time. So that individuals are happy, they're working less, yet they're performing better. And guess what? The employers are happy too. It's a win-win. And that's the piece that I'm most excited about this scalable solution. When we were working through 4 rounds of beta testing before launch earlier this year, we found that there was a good portion of people that, whilst the app was great and intuitive, they wanted a bit more help. They wanted some human interaction. They wanted some live coaching. So we've then redesigned all of our services as well, and we have an e-learning platform with a do-it-in-your-own-time program, step by step, over 12 weeks, about an hour of learning and change action per week to save more than 10.7 working hours per week. Think about what you could do with 10.7 hours per week. You could use half of that to pick up a hobby that you've always wanted to do, or picking up a dusty guitar that you haven't touched for years. You can spend half of that time working more on the business, working on your performance, being more proactive, doing more strategy, the stuff that tends to fall down our list, or we rush, or we don't do enough of it because we're stuck in the business. There's so much noise affecting us every single day. So many things we have to do, so we have to react, and we tend to take days from one day to the next. That is holding us back. We have to fight resistance in ourselves to take a step back and make time for the long term, for better plans. And the payoff is actually very quick if you do this consistently. And now we have tools, programs, and for those that don't want to do it yourself option, I then do live individual and group programs as well, which we're currently rolling out across a number of global organizations and some smaller ones. And behind the mobile app and all the programs and everything else I've been doing, I created the Lifework Effect, which is effectively a methodology with 4 key pillars. The first one is about strategy and planning. We can all get better at this. We can all make more time for it to make better decisions about how we use our time, how we leverage our resources. We can all upskill with productivity, time management, decision-making. It doesn't come naturally to a lot of people, but it's something that we can learn. And once we learn it and we know how, and then we practice it daily, it becomes routine, like brushing your teeth once a month. Laughter, applause. Obviously, twice a day for at least 2 minutes. But the point with brushing our teeth, once you know how to do it and it's routine, you don't have to think about it. And you may have experienced this yourself, or you've heard others talk about it, where we have some of our best ideas when we're brushing our teeth or when we're in the shower. How is that? Smiles around the room. Because we've stepped out of that always on, always focusing, always rushing, always under pressure. And we're relaxing, we're enjoying a shower. We don't need to think when we brush our teeth. We're giving our brains and our subconscious time to do stuff, to think differently, to be creative. The third pillar of the Lifework Effect is life-work balance, and setting a clear intention and routine for that. Not many people have had training on how to have a good life-work balance. Interesting that, isn't it? Considering how many of us are experienced of having a burnout or being close to a burnout, or we know others who are burnt out right now, particularly in the healthcare sector. The increased pressures that COVID has put on our healthcare sector, and we're not doing enough to ease those pressures. And the fourth and final pillar is about well-being. Simple, easy habits that we can implement every day that only take a couple of minutes of our time, yet they give us much more energy. They make us feel much happier. They make us more productive as well. So they also directly and indirectly impact our performance at work. We have a clearer mind. We have less brain fog. We have more energy, which makes us better at problem solving, better at creativity, better at innovation. And when you proactively work across each of the 4 pillars of the Lifework Effect, what I want for everyone is this smarter future of life and work, where we are happier and healthier in our lives, and we can perform even better at work. Sounds great, yeah? I want this. You can have it. Some statistics on productivity. If there's one thing I want you to take away from hearing this today, I want you to think about how can you get better at productivity? How can you make it your new superpower? I'm going to share some, if anyone wants a copy of these slides and some of my research papers and other people's research papers that I've drawn from, I've got a section in the presentation with live hyperlinks. So if anyone wants to read up on it more, you're very welcome. Just to give you a couple of examples of some of the stats that support all the stuff I'm talking to you about today. One of the more publicly known examples of working less and achieving more is Microsoft Japan. They trialed reducing work hours by 20%. Productivity went up by, I asked someone yesterday and they guessed 20%. It's a good guess, but it was 40%. So you've got, so Microsoft Japan, just to recap, their staff are working 20% less and the organization is 40% more productive. Hence, they've continued that and it's a permanent feature. Hence, New Zealand as a country heard about this and they started trialing the 4-day week. And now it's become more of a way of working and living for them in New Zealand. Iceland have done the same. The Scottish government 7 weeks ago announced that they're looking for companies to pilot the 4-day week. In more recent news last week, Atom Bank announced that they've gone to the 4-day working week. And for the joy of their employees, they haven't reduced their salaries. They're still earning their prior salary, yet they're only having to work 4-day weeks. And that's not making the days longer, cramming it into 4 days. They're doing amazing stuff to change the culture, to ease stress at work. And because they know that the company can be saving money on stress-related absence, recruitment fees, training costs. They'll have a higher retention rate of employees. They'll have better innovation, better problem solving, happier staff, etc., etc. So whether it's a 4-day week or whether it's just sticking to a 5-day week with healthier working hours, 35, 40 hours a week, whatever you choose, it's here to stay and it's coming. The change wave has begun. One of my other favorite stats to support all of this is that employees who exercise their strengths daily are 8% more productive and 6 times more likely to be engaged at work, which is also huge for productivity, staffing costs, team building, and many more. So to give you some idea on things you can do differently from right now, from after this talk, think about what your perfect week might look like. Think about your working hours, thinking about how often you're doing your fitness, your hobbies, how much time you spend with your family. I did this and I got more structured about it. And I managed it through my calendar initially, made my calendar a tool, not just for booking appointments with the doctor or appointments at work, but actually planning all the rest of my time and all of my other key tasks, planning all the important stuff in first, and then really having strong self-discipline to stick to those times, not letting meetings overrun, not getting distracted so that the plan then goes out the window. And very quickly, I saw the massive impact in productivity, energy, happiness. My sleep improved. And here are some prompts to help you visualize further what your perfect week could look like. Bearing in mind that perfection is actually quite rare and hard to get to, but I'm just talking about aspiring to it. By aspiring and then creating actions to work towards it, we're going to make much better progress. And even if we get some of the way towards that perfect week, or if we achieve it sometimes, that's better than what we're doing now. And the research supports this. Some of the benefits to employers as well. So everyone's a winner, employees and employers. It is a no-brainer. What stops people from achieving the life-work effect, that happier life, that greater performance at work? Here's just some examples. And I'm going to pick out one example here because it's only a short talk today, but I'm happy to take questions. We're on stand E1 downstairs as well. If anyone wants to chat to me or the team there, we'd love to see you. Time gremlins. This is about how easily we give away our time. We give it away too quickly. Our time is precious. Once we've given it away, we don't get it back. Those minutes, those hours, they add up. They add up, add them up over a week, add them up over a year or a lifetime. We are giving away so much time. What is a time gremlin? There's lots of different types. The social media, news feeds, the press, the papers, TV, requests from colleagues, emails, phone calls. It's just so many distractions. And I know that even the most successful people succumb and allow themselves to give away so much time too easily without thinking twice. And another one, which is quite a common one, most people I've spoken to over the years, they don't do this. It makes sense to them, but they don't do it because no one's ever highlighted it. It's quite traditional in business or even in school that we identify our weaknesses and we focus on how we can fix or mitigate those weaknesses. Fantastic. That's great. Absolutely. These are risks. They are threats to whatever it is that we're trying to do. But by being so focused on weaknesses and being so risk adverse and conservative, we're not leveraging our strengths. Our strengths tend to come to us, they tend to be strengths for a reason. They tend to come to us naturally, or we're perhaps professionally qualified. We're particularly well equipped to be good at those things in life and in work. So I'm not saying ignore the weaknesses, but have a better balance of leveraging those strengths more. And here's 3 things to help you to do that. Number 1, look at your schedule, look at your task list for the next few weeks, just for 10, 15 minutes over your favorite drink. Maybe a fruit and veg smoothie would be a nice healthy option to boost your energy at the same time. And just look at your schedule and challenge yourself, right? What can I do to use my strengths more often? Simple. Make changes to the diary, make some shifts on how you can do that. Secondly, how can you overall use those strengths for more time? So number 1, use them more often, and 2, ensure you use them for more time overall, even as a little and often. And number 3, and this is the most transformative, what can you do to get better at those strengths? Just because they're strengths today doesn't mean they're going to be strengths tomorrow. Times change, society changes, a whole load of things can make those strengths become very average or even weaknesses. You can apply this to many different positions. So really challenge yourself and always drive and strive and make time for continual development, continual improvement. Being at the Giant Health event this year, we've got to provide some giant gifts to you all, right? Last week, we were very excited to launch a new free ebook, which has been very, very well received. It's completely free. You can access it through the website or just speak to a member of the team and we can direct you to it. But the title hopefully says it all. 4 epic life-work effect pillars of smarter hybrid working. You've heard today about a little bit of what those 4 pillars are. And then there are more than 50 practical tips and techniques that you can implement from today to make your life effect score improve and to achieve your success more easily and to get the best from life. We're doing a free prize draw as well. We're giving away 10 places on our e-learning program, which includes the mobile app. And there's also a bonus, especially for Giant Health attendees, which is going to be free group coaching sessions as well, live with me, virtually, starting in January. To enter, all you need to do is send me a message through the website or come and see us on our stand and we can enter you in that free prize draw. It is transferable. So if you're an expert in productivity and life-work balance, you can transfer it to someone that you know that will need this help. And if you don't win the prize draw, we're also offering a 50% discount on our programs as well. That's where to find us. For the curious, this is just a quick screenshot. If you want to know more about the 4-day week and other tips and techniques to embrace this smarter future of life and work. And if we do have a short amount of time, we could do a couple of questions.
Sure, thank you. Am I good? Yeah, of course. I think we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 questions very quickly. I have a microphone here, so feel free to raise your hands, ask any questions. I'll come to you. So I'll ask a question, Daryl, in that case, first and foremost. So things have changed over the last 18 months. People making some radical decisions about their life. What are you getting in terms of feedback from people and the employers? because it's a partnership, right? What's that looking like? Are we getting more support?
It's an amazing one. So thank you for asking that question. It's a very hot topic at the moment, and I can summarize it as, how do we get the best from hybrid working? And that's a headline of some of the talks and the workshops that I'm going into organizations at the moment, either in person or virtually, to help with some of this stuff and some of the real issues we're facing today. One of them, which I'm sure you will all resonate with, is the challenge of working from home for so long, and that affects our well-being, our social life, and stuff like this, and also our productivity. But it's also increased that blur between life-work balance. We're working and living from the same place now most of the time, if not all the time, and hours are creeping up. We're not taking it as regular breaks. We're getting the laptops out once the kids are in bed and doing more work in the evenings, much more than we did before the pandemic. We're already seeing rising trends of job-related burnout, job-related stress going up as well. So, you know, the issues are here, and it's very much happening. And the answer is, you know, some of the stuff that I'm talking about today, hundreds of techniques, habits, tools, and processes to make all of this easier and to make those firmer lines between life and work much clearer. And employers want to help. They want to help their employees. Some, such as Atom Bank, are leading the way, and they've looked at this research, and you know they're embracing it. You know, they're making time now to create better success and life for everyone in the longer run, and others will quickly follow. You know, so.
Okay. I would ask, are there any burning questions there? But as we're talking about burnout, that might be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, of course. Any other questions you'd like to ask anybody? All right, Daryl.
Can I make one more comment?
Well, of course you can.
It's just to say as well, and we do have a question. Great, thank you. We'll come to you in a second. Just, you know, if there's one thing one question you ask yourself from today, I've got it up on here on the screen if you haven't seen it already. What will you do differently from today? Even if it's just one thing to start with. I can tell you from experience of my own and from my clients, one new habit a week for 4 weeks, just to try it. It only takes a few minutes of your time per week to do that. It's transformational. One new habit for 4 weeks. And then it becomes, rightly or wrongly, it becomes addictive. And so for me, it's like I'm always now adding new things every week. You know, I have time in my schedule to look for and add new habits to my lifestyle and my work productivity. But isn't that a great thing when I'm working less and being more successful and having more time for my kids and my hobbies? So just to consider that, please. We have a question from yourself.
Yeah, it works. My name is Sophia. Thanks for this speech. You said that it's important to have clear boundaries between work and family life. I sometimes feel that I like not having very clear boundaries because I really appreciate my work and like it and feel passionate about it. Do you still recommend that I should have clear boundaries?
Yeah,
I think I know what the answer is, but
it's a brilliant question. Yes. Now, this might surprise you, but before my burnout, I didn't like having too much structure either. And obviously, I learned the hard way. That doesn't mean everyone else is going to go through what I did. But you know, I had to really fight that resistance to too much structure and routine. I had to fight that to try this new way of working. So I started with a middle ground. I didn't go all in, you know, and then I was like, okay, this works. Okay, maybe I should do a bit more. And now, if I would probably scare you if I opened up my diary to show you what it looks like. But every minute is scheduled and routine. And I even have spaces in there for when there is no plan. So I can have that informality. I can choose to be a bit more relaxed and free about how I use that time. And I apply that for both my personal and social life and family. Like, you know, there's time for unplanned activities, spontaneous opportunities, and I have that for work as well. So there's time where I'm not in meetings or in my inbox. I've got some creative time. I've got some free time where if something urgent at work comes up, if a colleague needs me, if I need to firefight a problem, I've got that time and I'm not having to now squeeze that time in and rush everything else and make myself really stressed and anxious. So hopefully that gives you some food for thought.
Daryl, thank you so much for sharing your views. I think what you're talking about is so relevant now. I hope we'll see more and more people get support they need, change their lifestyles accordingly, and take some advice from what you just said today. So thank you very much, Daryl. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone. Be well.
Okay, we're going to move on now to our kind of next session. And, so we live in a world that's more connected. I'm not sure you saw the other day, we